What is happening to so many people every time they walk out of the grocery store? You just paid more, but there is less in the cart than before. A carton of eggs costs more. A bottle of cooking oil makes you stop and stare for a few seconds. The morning bag of coffee, a few cans of food, even the cheapest items like noodles or rice are quietly starting to rise in price. So in today's video, we're going to talk about 12 grocery items that many people may wish they had bought earlier before June 1st, 2026. Not because of panic, not because of the end of the world. It happens so slowly that many families only realize the problem when the bill is already hundreds of dollars higher each month. But the kitchen still feels like there is nothing to eat. That is the dangerous part. Not a lack of food, but the items that used to help life stay stable are gradually becoming harder to keep. Because when the most basic items start changing in price, changing in size, or disappearing faster than usual, that is often a sign that everyday life is also starting to change with them. 12. Eggs. There is a truth that is making many Americans uncomfortable every time they walk into the grocery store, even if they do not say it out loud. Eggs are no longer something people put into the cart without checking the price. And that is worrying, because when one of the most basic foods in the kitchen starts making people hesitate for a few seconds in front of the shelf, it is usually no longer just a story about eggs. It is a sign that the entire grocery bill is changing. During the peak of the recent egg crisis, egg prices in the United States rose by more than 60% in just 1 year in some areas. And the scary part is that many people think it is over just because prices have cooled down a little. No. What is changing is not just the price. It is the normal state of food. Eggs used to be one of the cheapest, easiest, and most flexible sources of protein in the grocery store. Breakfast, eggs, sandwich, eggs, baking, eggs, fried rice, eggs. Those days when you are too tired to cook, still eggs. That is why this item is more dangerous to the grocery budget than many people think. Because this is not the kind of food you only buy once in a while. People buy it every week, sometimes several times a week. Just a few extra dollars per carton over many months can add up to a much bigger cost than most people imagine. And the problem is that the egg supply system is very vulnerable to chain reactions, avian flu, feed costs, transportation fuel prices, refrigeration costs. If just one link starts shaking, the whole price system begins to react almost immediately. Unlike many dry goods that can sit in warehouses for months, eggs have to keep moving through the system every day. That is why egg shelves often change very quickly when the market becomes unstable. You may have seen this already. 1 week, the shelves are still full. The next week, purchase limits start appearing. Then a few days later, empty spaces show up. The interesting thing is that many people do not panic when steak prices go up, but they start to feel that something is wrong with the economy when the simplest breakfast at home becomes more expensive. That is the psychological weight of eggs. The smart advice right now is not to overbuy. It is to buy more strategically. If the price is good, buy a few extra cartons. Always keep enough for 1 to 2 weeks instead of waiting until you run out completely before buying more. And if your family uses a lot of eggs, start paying attention to prices at different stores instead of buying out of habit. It sounds small, but many people will look back at the summer of 2026 and realize this. The thing that made them feel grocery inflation most clearly was not beef or restaurants. It was the carton of eggs sitting in the refrigerator every morning. 11. Coffee prices on the commodity market once reached nearly 440 cents per pound in February 2025. one of the highest levels seen in decades. Put more simply, the coffee shock is no longer some distant story from a Brazilian farm or a Vietnamese exporter. It is moving straight into American kitchens, one bag at a time, one spoonful at a time, one morning at a time. The worrying part is that most consumers have not fully felt that impact at the grocery aisle yet. Roasters, distributors, and retail chains have tried to delay the pressure with old inventory, earlier price contracts, short-term promotions, and package size changes. But that cushion cannot last forever. Brazil and Vietnam are two major pillars of the global coffee supply. If drought, unseasonal rain, or extreme temperatures hit at the wrong time during flowering, harvesting, or drying, prices can react very quickly. Coffee is not the kind of crop where, if there is a shortage today, you can simply plant more next month and solve it. One bad season can leave aftershocks for many months, even years. But the deeper problem is this: the world has been used to cheap coffee for too long. For millions of people, coffee is not just a drink. It is a morning ritual. It is the thing they touch before checking the news, before taking medication, before driving to work, before starting a day that is already carrying too much pressure. A bag of coffee going up by $2 may not sound scary, but if you buy it regularly every month, over 12 months, that is no longer just a few dollars. It is like a quiet morning tax, repeated again and again, and no one asked your permission before collecting it. This is the most dangerous kind of inflation. It does not hit you in the face in one day, but irritates you week by week. You still buy it. You still brew it. You still drink it. It is just that every time you pick up a bag of coffee, the easy feeling you used to have disappears a little more. And for older adults, people who are used to beginning the day with a hot cup of coffee in a quiet kitchen, that change is not just about price. It makes normal life feel more expensive. If your family drinks coffee every day, this is an item worth buying before June. Prioritize whole bean coffee if possible. Store it sealed, keep it away from moisture and light. And the portion you are not using right away can be frozen properly to preserve quality for several months. When coffee prices become more obvious later in the year, it will no longer feel like an economic news story. It will feel like normal life getting more expensive from the very first sip of the day. 10. Ground beef. There is one very clear sign that life in America is becoming more expensive. Dinners that used to be cheap and easy are starting to disappear from many families' meal plans. Taco night, chili night, spaghetti with meat sauce, weekend hamburgers. Meals that once only needed one tray of ground beef and a few simple ingredients now make people stand longer at the meat counter. And what is worth noticing is that this is not happening because Americans are suddenly eating more. It is happening because the U.S. cattle herd is at its lowest level in decades. At one point, the size of the cattle herd fell to its lowest level since the early 1950s. When supply drops, beef prices do not just rise at steakhouses. They go straight into the most ordinary package of ground beef at the grocery store. That is the part that makes many families feel food inflation most clearly. Not expensive steak, but the item they use to feed the whole family at a reasonable cost. And ground beef has a very different advantage from the pretty cuts of meat. It is extremely flexible. 1 pound can become tacos, meatballs, burgers, chili, stuffed peppers, or spaghetti sauce for the whole family. This is the kind of protein that does not need to be fancy, but still makes dinner feel complete. The frustrating thing is that ground beef prices often rise in a way that forces people to change their habits. Many families start using less per meal, mixing in more beans, dividing portions smaller, or looking around the meat counter longer before deciding to put it in the cart. Nutritionally, ground beef provides protein, iron, and vitamin B12, nutrients that are especially important for older adults. Higher fat options are usually cheaper and work well for chili or pasta sauce, while leaner options are better for burgers or meal prep. If you buy it on sale, portion it out, and freeze it properly, ground beef can help reduce pressure on the grocery bill for the weeks ahead. But maybe what makes this item so powerful is not the nutrition. It is the feeling many Americans are beginning to recognize. Even the most ordinary dinners are now starting to feel like a financial decision. 9. Canned fish and canned meat. If the power goes out for a few days, a freezer full of meat can turn from a reserve asset into a very big problem. That is why canned fish and canned meat are worth buying before June 1st, more than many people think. One 5-ounce can of tuna can provide nearly 25 to 30 grams of protein, with no cooking, no refrigerator, and no thawing needed. In normal times, that is just convenient. But when the power goes out, the stove stops working, or fresh meat prices rise too quickly, these small cans can become real meals. The mistake many people make is thinking that having meat in the freezer means they are safe. Not exactly. A freezer is only safe as long as the power stays stable. A freezer full of beef, chicken, or ground meat can make you feel secure on Monday morning. But if the power outage stretches into the third day, that sense of security begins to melt. Literally. At that point, the most valuable food is not the tastiest one, but the one that is still edible when the kitchen is no longer working normally. Canned tuna can become a sandwich. Canned salmon can be mixed with noodles. Sardines can be eaten with crackers. Canned chicken can be mixed into a salad or turned into a quick meal. These foods are not flashy, and they do not feel luxurious, but they have one cold advantage. They still work when many other things begin to fail. The problem is that this food group is no longer as cheap as it used to be. Prices are under pressure from fishing fuel, transportation costs, metal packaging, catch quotas, and global demand. With canned meat, prices are also being pulled up by the entire protein market becoming more expensive. And then, there is a quieter kind of price increase. The can still looks the same. The label still looks the same. The spot on the shelf is still the same. But the amount inside is smaller, or the price per ounce is higher. Shoppers only notice when a can that used to be enough for 2 sandwiches suddenly feels short. This is the most frustrating kind of price increase. It does not shout at you at checkout. It just quietly takes value out of each meal. So if your family actually eats tuna, sardines, canned salmon, or canned chicken, buy before prices become more obvious. You do not need to overbuy. But you should have enough canned protein in the pantry for a few weeks, because when there is a storm, a power outage, or a new round of price increases, protein-rich, ready-to-eat, long-lasting foods usually do not sit on the shelf as long as people think. 8. Canned tomatoes. There is one item in the grocery store that usually sits quietly on the shelf, with no one showing it off and no one fighting to take pictures of it. But without it, many budget meals at home would immediately become harder to manage. That item is canned tomatoes. A can of tomatoes sounds too simple, but it is the base for soup, spaghetti, chili, stews, meat sauce, rice bowls, and even those end-of-the-month dinners when you need to cook quickly, but still want enough flavor. The important number is this. California produces about 90% of the processed tomatoes in the United States. That means most of the tomatoes used for canned goods, tomato sauce, and many tomato products in grocery stores depend heavily on one region. When California faces drought, higher irrigation costs, extreme heat, or lower processed tomato production, that pressure does not disappear. It moves through the factory, the tin can, transportation, and finally shows up on the shelf. The problem is that canned tomato prices rarely rise in a way that shocks you immediately. They rise in a more irritating way. A few more cents per can, then a few more cents again a few months later. Shoppers do not react strongly because one can still seem cheap. But if your family cooks at home more to save money, you will use it faster than you think. One pot of chili can take several cans. One pot of spaghetti sauce can also take several cans. 1 week of cooking at home can use up the amount of tomatoes you once thought would last a whole month. This is the real value of this item. It turns cheap foods into meals that feel complete. Rice, pasta, beans, canned meat, or frozen vegetables are all easier to eat when there is a tomato sauce base. It adds light acidity, moisture, color, and the feeling of a real meal, instead of just dry foods mixed together. If the price is still good before June 1st, buying by the case makes more sense than buying one can at a time. Choose the type you actually use: crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, or whole tomatoes. Store them in a cool, dry place, away from heat, and check that the cans are not swollen, badly dented, or rusty. Most canned tomatoes keep good quality for about 2 to 3 years. This is not buying out of panic. This is buying a foundation item before people realize that the foundation is what keeps a budget kitchen working. 7. Dry pasta and noodles. There is a joke online that feels a little too real. Someone picks up a box of pasta at the grocery store and says, "Wait, since when did the food that saved college students from starvation start costing like a financial decision?" It sounds funny, but that is exactly how many families feel right now. Dry noodles and pasta used to symbolize cheap meals, easy to cook, filling. Kids would eat them. Older adults could eat them easily too, and they could almost always be combined with whatever was left in the kitchen. But the food that once seemed cheap forever is starting to change. Global wheat prices rose sharply during recent periods of instability, at times climbing by dozens of percentage points because of weather, energy costs, transportation, and supply disruptions. That pressure does not stay on commodity charts. It moves into every box of pasta. What is interesting is that it is not just the big brands raising prices. Even low-cost store brands are quietly becoming more expensive because they are dealing with the same ingredient, packaging, and shipping costs. A box of pasta costing 30 or 50 cents more may not sound serious. But if a family eats pasta once or twice a week, that number starts adding up over the course of a year and makes the grocery bill heavier. This is the most frustrating kind of inflation. You do not feel like you are buying more, but you are still paying more. The value of dry pasta is that it stretches meals extremely well. One box can be combined with canned tomatoes, tuna, canned chicken, frozen vegetables, butter, cooking oil, or just a few simple seasonings. It is not fancy food, but it is the kind of food that helps a family have a quick, hot, filling meal during tight budget days. For storage, dry pasta is very easy to keep if you protect it from moisture, heat, and insects. Do not leave it in the cardboard box too long if your area is hot and humid. Putting it into sealed bags, airtight containers, or vacuum-sealed packaging is better. Keep it in a cool, dry, dark place. If stored properly, dry pasta can last much longer than many fresh foods. Before June 1st, this is an item worth buying extra while prices still feel reasonable. Not because people are afraid pasta will disappear, but because when even the cheapest foods stop feeling cheap, smart shoppers do not wait for the grocery bill to tell them first. 6. Cooking oil. You can cut steak. You can skip snacks. You can eat out less. But try cooking for 1 week without cooking oil. The kitchen will immediately become frustrating. Eggs stick to the pan. Sautéed vegetables lose flavor. Fried rice is no longer fried rice, and even the cheapest foods start becoming harder to eat. That is why cooking oil is worth buying before June 1st. It is not just something for frying or sautéing. It is what helps cheap foods still feel like a real meal. 1 tablespoon of cooking oil usually has about 120 calories, provides fat, helps you feel full longer, and supports the absorption of vitamins A, D, E, and K. It sounds small, but in home cooking, it is the quiet foundation. The worrying part is that the global cooking oil system is very easy to shake. When olive oil rises because of poor harvests, shoppers switch to canola oil, sunflower oil, and soybean oil. Then those substitutes also get pulled up in price. At one point, the FAO Global Vegetable Oil Price Index rose nearly 6% in just 1 month. For an item used almost every day, that is not a small number. A large bottle used to be the bargain choice. Now many people pick it up and have to calculate again. It may still be cheaper per ounce, but the amount you pay at one time hurts more than before. The smart way to buy is not to stockpile too much. Oil can go rancid if it is exposed to heat, light, and air for too long. Buy enough for about 6 to 12 months. Choose bottles with long expiration dates and keep them in a cool, dark place, away from the hot stove. Cooking oil is dangerous to the budget in this way. You do not realize how much you depend on it until its price pulls the whole kitchen upward. 5. Breakfast cereal. There is one kind of food inflation that irritates people much more than expensive steak or seafood. The familiar cereal box in the kitchen starts getting smaller, but the price gets higher. And the thing is, most people do not notice it right away. The box still looks almost the same. The colors are still the same. The spot on the shelf is still the same. It just runs out faster than before. This is the kind of shrinkflation that millions of American families are feeling every morning. Many cereal boxes today are about 10 to 20% smaller than they were a few years ago, while prices at many grocery stores have gone up by a few dollars per box. Some products advertised as healthy, high protein, or heart healthy have even passed $7 to $8 in many areas. And that is what makes the grocery bill so frustrating. Not one big shock in a single day, but hundreds of small increases repeated again and again throughout the year. Breakfast cereal used to symbolize convenient American life. A bowl of cereal, a little milk, breakfast done. Older adults eat it because it is quick and easy on the stomach. Kids eat it before going to school. On nights when you are too tired to cook, cereal is still sitting there as the no-thinking needed option. But now, even the simplest breakfast is starting to feel more like a financial decision than before. What is worth noticing is that cereal is not just breakfast food. It is part of a daily routine. A bowl of cereal late at night, a quick breakfast before taking medication, something always available when the grandkids come over on the weekend. And when a small item like that starts becoming noticeably more expensive, many people begin to feel that normal life is changing faster than they thought. For storage, cereal keeps fairly well if you protect it from moisture and seal it tightly after opening. Larger boxes are usually more cost-effective per ounce, but you should only buy the kind your family actually eats regularly. Because the best stored food is not the one sitting untouched on the shelf for months. It is the one that naturally disappears from the kitchen, because the whole family is still using it every week. 4. Butter and cooking fats. There is a very small moment in the supermarket that says a lot. People pick up a box of butter, stare at the price for a few extra seconds, then put it back down to look for a cheaper option. Butter used to be an ordinary item in the American kitchen. Now, for many families, it is starting to feel like something that requires careful consideration. A pound of butter in the United States recently surpassed the $4 mark. a level that has caused many people to compare prices between Costco, Walmart, and local grocery stores instead of simply tossing it into the cart like before. The costs of dairy production, animal feed, energy, and transportation are all pushing prices higher. And once those costs rise, they rarely fall sharply again right away. What many people underestimate is that fat is not only about flavor. It makes food more filling, more aromatic, and more satisfying. A slice of bread with butter, mashed potatoes, fried eggs, or sautéed vegetables all feel completely different without fat. This is why a cheap meal can still make people feel okay. While a meal lacking fat can feel unsatisfying even when it contains enough calories. From a nutritional standpoint, fats provide concentrated energy and help the body absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. This is the quiet element that keeps food from becoming too dry, too bland, and too quickly tiresome. Butter also has the advantage of freezing quite well. If tightly wrapped and stored in freezer bags, many types of butter can maintain their quality for up to about a year. Ghee, coconut oil, or shortening are also possible alternatives depending on each family's cooking style. However, heat and strong light should be avoided because fats can develop off odors much more easily than many people realize. When people begin hesitating over a box of butter, it is no longer just about butter itself. It is a sign that things once considered completely ordinary in the kitchen are slowly changing. 3. Peanut butter. There are evenings when you open the refrigerator, stare for a few seconds, then close it again because you no longer have the energy to think about what to cook. That is when a jar of peanut butter becomes more valuable than it appears. No stove, no microwave, no recipe. Just a slice of bread, a few crackers, a banana, or even a clean spoon, and you already have something filling enough to get you through the meal. The unique advantage of peanut butter is that it combines three things that are very rare in one inexpensive food: protein, fat, and convenience. 2 spoonfuls of peanut butter can sometimes keep you full longer than an expensive bag of snacks. It does not create the feeling of eating just for fun, like potato chips or sweets. It has richness, energy, a sense of satisfaction, and most importantly, it requires no cooking. For older adults, it is also a familiar food that is easy to eat, soft, quick, and comforting in the kitchen. At a time when many families are trying to cut back on takeout, peanut butter has become a very practical buffer. A quick breakfast with bread, a snack in the middle of the day, a simple dinner when exhaustion takes over, a spoonful mixed into oatmeal to make the meal more filling, a layer spread on crackers when the household has not had time to go grocery shopping. It does not replace everything, but it prevents people from turning to more expensive options simply because they are hungry and tired. An unopened jar can last quite a long time in a cool, dry place away from heat and light. After opening, keep the lid tightly sealed, use a clean spoon, and store it according to the label instructions. If it is a natural variety, the oil may separate on top, but it only needs to be stirred again. Do not buy overly unfamiliar types if your family is not used to eating them. The best emergency food is always the one people will actually use. Peanut butter does not stand out dramatically on the shelf, but it has a very practical kind of strength. It is always there at exactly the moment when you do not know what to eat, do not want to cook, and also do not want to spend an extra $20 on food delivery. 2. Salt, sugar, and basic seasonings. By the third day, the problem is no longer just about calories. The problem is whether you still want to eat at all. This is something many emergency food supply lists tend to underestimate. A kitchen stocked with rice, noodles, beans, and canned goods can still leave an entire family exhausted if every meal is bland, dry, and repetitive enough to make people tired of it the moment they look into the bowl. A crisis does not only wear down the body, it also wears down the desire to eat. A pot of plain white rice can keep people full, but plain rice day after day, with no salt, no pepper, no touch of sweetness, no garlic aroma, no hint of spice, eventually starts to become a mental challenge. People do not skip meals only because they run out of food. Sometimes they skip meals because the food no longer feels like a meal. That is why salt, sugar, and basic seasonings have their own value. Salt restores proper flavor to food and also plays a role in food preservation. Sugar helps balance flavors, supports baking, mixes into drinks, and softens dishes that are too sour or too harsh. Pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, cinnamon, cayenne pepper, and dried herbs can turn the same pot of beans or the same plate of noodles into completely different experiences. Not luxurious, just different enough that people still want to keep eating. These items are small, inexpensive, lightweight, and often treated as secondary. But that is exactly why, when panic buying begins, they disappear very quickly. Each person only grabs an extra jar of pepper, a bag of salt, some sugar, or a few containers of seasoning. But when hundreds of people think the same way within a single week, the spice shelves empty faster than anyone expects. Keep salt and sugar completely dry, away from moisture, and tightly sealed to prevent clumping. Seasonings should be stored in airtight containers away from light and heat, so they do not lose their flavor too quickly. There is no need to buy hundreds of different kinds. Just keep the ones your family actually uses. Because after several days of eating stored food, the thing that saves a meal is not always another can of food. Sometimes it is simply a pinch of salt, a little garlic powder, a bit of pepper, and the feeling that this meal still resembles normal life. 1. Powdered milk/shelf-stable milk. When fresh milk becomes more expensive or sells out, many kitchens are immediately affected. Morning coffee tastes thinner. Oatmeal loses its richness. Baking becomes more difficult. A quick glass of milk for older adults or children is no longer as convenient as before. That is why powdered milk and shelf-stable milk are some of the most underestimated items in the supermarket. The unique strength of these products is that they are not only for drinking. They help keep many small daily meals functioning normally. A little in coffee, a few spoonfuls in oatmeal, some for pancakes, bread, or simple baked dishes. When dairy prices rise or fresh milk spoils before it can all be used, a backup container of milk begins to carry a very different kind of value. This is also the kind of food that reflects strategic thinking rather than panic buying. The dairy system depends on refrigerated transportation, electricity, labor, and livestock feed costs. If just one part of that chain becomes more expensive, shoppers immediately feel it in the dairy aisle. And the frustrating thing about fresh milk is that it usually does not give people much time. Use it quickly or throw it away. Powdered milk is different. It sits quietly on the shelf, waiting until it is needed. Nutritionally, powdered milk often provides protein, calcium, and many varieties also include added vitamin D. For older adults, this is not a small matter, especially as many families begin trying to stretch their budgets with simpler meals. The smartest approach is to buy the kind your family actually drinks or cooks with regularly. Store it in a cool, dry place and seal it tightly after opening. There is no need to stockpile excessively. But many well-prepared households always keep a few containers at home because they understand one very simple truth. Some items may seem small, but once they are missing, the entire kitchen immediately starts to feel inconvenient. Perhaps the most thought-provoking thing is not that food prices are rising. It is that many people only begin paying attention to the small items in their kitchens after they become more expensive, harder to find, or less available than before. A carton of eggs, a bottle of cooking oil, a bag of noodles, a can of tomatoes. Things that once felt so ordinary that they required no thought at all. But over time, those ordinary items quietly become the very things that determine whether a family feels stable each time they go to the supermarket. And perhaps that is what grocery inflation truly takes away. Not just money, but the feeling that everyday life used to be simple.